I'm gonna try to channel all of my favorite like '90s movies I grew up with into how I do like parent coaching. It's supposed to be parent coaching. I'm gonna take my parent coaching inspirations from like the Mighty Ducks. I'm gonna see if I can get the kids to do a flying V down the field with the ball. And then of course Little Giants. What would really need to happen, according to '90s movie logic, if one of the kids could hurt their leg and put it in a cast and then come out and be able to kick super hard, like Rookie of the Year, that would be best. Anybody out there have some favorite sports movies involving kids like Mighty Ducks? Coaching tips, things to use. I told one of the dads I was gonna channel Will Ferrell from Kicking and Screaming, and that was gonna be my inspiration for coaching. Just come out with a espresso machine, super charged up, just do a lot of yelling, lose my mind. That says it will do more with the last than I thought it was. I really thought that like I was only gonna be able to do like the 15s, but I'm glad to still be able to do the 20s and do a couple more sets and then switch over to shoulder press. I don't even know if they do a lot of like fun sport movies anymore. I can't think of any I've seen pop up. We had a bunch of them. I'll have to show my kids Mighty Ducks. Get them motivated. When I was in college, during one of our classes, we got into like a big argument with the teacher, and everybody. It was starting to get out of hand, like the were very passionate about this argument, and one of the guys in class, um, like just instantly de-escalated the whole situation because he started calling out the quack, 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 and everybody just started laughing. Like everybody went back to having some sense of decorum after that. But that guy had a gift at like de-escalating situations. All right, we're gonna do shoulder press. Another time, like everybody was like getting upset about something. I forget what it was. And same guy just de-escalated everything by calling out, "Give us Barabbas," which is what like um, the Jews were calling. Some of the Jews were calling out for when Pilate offered to release a prisoner, hoping that they would choose Jesus, and they chose Barabbas. That made everybody laugh and everyone calmed down again. I think being able to use comedy to diffuse unnecessarily tense situations is a good attribute to have. He was really good at it. All right. Whereas they kind of ruined like a lot of serious situations for me, and that it made me feel like when you find yourself in a serious situation, sometimes it's hard to like not realize how silly it can look from the outside perspective once you've done that a couple of times. So you'll be in something that's serious, and then you'll want to laugh because you're like, I cannot believe that this is what's going on. And sometimes laughing in a serious situation is not productive for everyone else in that situation that can't pull themselves out of it mentally. One of my favorite psych professors pointed out just I did a lot of the situations we put ourselves in that seem high stakes or we get passionate about aren't real. Like the rules and things aren't real. And he used the illustration of the point of like when people play Monopoly, they get very fixated on the game and they start having a really hard time. And you can want to flip the board and run off, but if you step out of the game for a second, you realize it's just a game. The stakes aren't real. You're not really going to lose anything, and you can calm down and get back to enjoying the game. And there's a lot of areas of life that are that way, where we get in a conflict and we can have these imaginary stakes that don't necessarily have to be that way. And if we can step out, we realize like, hey, this is just a game or just a situation in time that's not bound to all time, or it doesn't have this giant effect that it's having in this moment. It's not really that consequential, and it's able to change. And I think that's a very like important thing to be able to do. I find it's useful, especially when I'm arguing with my wife about something and it's like getting heated up and it's like it's gonna be this big thing. And I just realized, man, this doesn't really matter. There's no reason for us to be like losing our minds over this. And then you're able to just kind of just stop and be like, nope, I'm not getting sucked into this. I'm not gonna play this game. I'm not gonna, you know, cause damage to our relationship over something that doesn't count or isn't that big of a deal. We talked about it before, but the biggest example of that is when one of us, when she thought she's told me something, or she did tell me something, but I didn't hear it, so I don't remember her telling me it. And I will argue in the past, like you can argue about, like, you didn't tell me. And those can become like really big problems in a marriage. If you fixate on like, oh no, you didn't say that. And you can argue all day about what people said and didn't say, about the intentions and perceived intentions. But if you just stop, like, it doesn't really matter because it's 100% possible she did say something. It's 100% possible I didn't hear it or I misheard it, and then move on rather than just getting like in this gridlock. And there's this concept where they talk about marriage counseling when you can trace most marriages that are falling apart. At least one, or if not both partners, can go back mentally to the argument that originally broke them. And sometimes it's just something that's so small and could have been fixed, and actually can still be fixed and possibly repair the marriage if the other partner is willing to do a little bit of work. Now, if it's consequential, if it's important, sometimes you got to die on that hill. But I think because I rarely, I try, become insistent upon things that aren't important, that when I do insist that something is important, my wife takes it more serious. So I'm not arguing and fighting over little things. So if I'm actually passionate about something, it's a big deal. And then we have a better conversation because we can see that it's a big deal. It also probably helps that I really love my wife. I don't want to torpedo the marriage on something dumb. And it also helps I have a good wife, one that's very much worth keeping. I got very blessed. So, like this morning, she's already making my life easier. I'm supposed to cook pancakes after I'm done working out. The kids are already awake though, and so she's doing a very nice thing of already having made breakfast. And it's gonna make my day easier. So I would tell everyone, take your time with marriage. Find the right partner. And I think it's definitely important to find a partner that's going to help you with your weaknesses. Don't necessarily marry someone with the same strengths, and don't marry someone that's going to tolerate your imperfections. Don't marry a yes person. And it's hard because when you're dating a yes person, it can feel really great. You know, whatever you say goes, whenever you want to be home, it's great. Everything's awesome. But that's not good. I have a sneaking suspicion that, like, those first, years or decades of a marriage with a yes person go great, and then when they get older, I think the bitterness of not having lived their lives the way they wanted to, or constantly, being a yes person is going to get to them, and they're going to be bitter and frustrating to live with for those twilight years. It's when they're going to be like walking around the house grumbling all the time. You're like, you were such a such a pleasant person to be with in the beginning, and now you're just bitter because they wasted their life telling you yes to everything. That was the 50-pound dumbbells. I am gonna have to start stepping up my shoulder press again soon. Really focused on moving it up because my kids are getting bigger, and that shoulder press is what helps me launch them in the air at the swimming pool. And I don't want them to think I'm losing a step this year. They're not flying as high as last year. And they put on, each of them is probably 10 to 15 pounds. Maybe just 10 pounds heavier. So I need to get to where I can do like a 60-pound shoulder press soon, so I can really get that hang time. I like to throw my kids at the pool so high that every other kid in the pool is looking at it enviously, and the dads are like slightly embarrassed that they can't do the same with their kids, and then all the moms are like slightly terrified at how high the children are being thrown in the air. That's when you know you're really nailing it as a father at the pool. It's not about walking around with a six pack. It's about how high you can toss your kids. The only downside to having a lot of fun with your kids at the pool is inevitably like some other kid is gonna want you to throw them too. And then you're like trying to look around the pool to figure out which parent is that kid's parents and get some sort of consent before you do it. And like if you look over and the parent is clearly not into it, and you're got to be the bad guy to be like, oh, like no, or next time, or you know what, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. Maybe later, pal. Be very careful and cautious at pools about tossing other people's kids in the air. All right, let's not gonna cut it. That's 4. I'm gonna go down to the 40 pounds. One of my kids that is littler is cracking me up because they are finding ways to insert comedy from movies into their day or into conversations. So like last night we were at the table and they had asked for a tortilla for their snack time. They really like tortillas. So I'm have a tortilla or half a tortilla, and they're sitting there and they pick it up and they're like flopping it around and they start going, I'm Mr. Potato Head. And I asked my wife, I was like, do you get it? And she's like, no. And I was like, come on. I'm a boy toy. Or however the line goes. You know, it's pretty funny. They're really little. So the fact that they're associating these concepts to real life. My favorite was we were eating donuts and they go, I think I'll eat, after their donut was gone, they're like, I think I'll eat mine now. And then they bit their hand and was like, hey, who stole my donut? and that was from SpongeBob and Patrick. When Patrick is, it's from the Free Balloon Day episode when Patrick is eating his candy bar and doesn't realize he ate his candy bar and then starts accusing SpongeBob of stealing his candy bar. One of my kids wants to do YouTube, do their channel because they've watched other kids have channels. And they're super cute with how they do it. But one of the things I realized is their communication skills and explaining things that they're doing is really high because they watch like YouTube craft videos where someone's making something on YouTube and the person is explaining a step-by-step process. And for their age group, and they are really good at communicating what they're doing, what the steps they're doing, and why. And they wanted me to shoot a video of them last night, so I did. I don't post them, but I put them in a file and we'll just collect them over the years. Maybe when they're older and less likely to have problems as a result of being online. Think about it, but they were like, "Oh, and before you do this, make sure you have a parent." Like, I'm lucky, my dad is right here, and it's just so cute and how they explain things. And I don't think when I was a kid at their age, I could have explained things, anything that I was doing as well as they can articulate. And that's the funny side is that a lot of parents will slam like screen time for kids without realizing that their kids are learning like possibly good skills from the time that they're on. Maybe the important side would be figuring, looking at what they're watching. Like one type of video, it took me a while to realize like that it wasn't so great, was watching, certain like Ryan's Worlds or videos where kids were getting toys all the time and playing with the toys that gave my child like this idea that they were supposed to be getting toys all the time. All right, got one more set and then I'm done. But once I realized, like my wife would come home from work and they'd be like, "Oh, did you get me something?" And I thought like, "Oh man, like the kid just like really selfish." Then I realized like, oh no, it's what they're watching. These kids that they watch on YouTube are constantly getting new toys. They think that's how life works. Then took time to explain to them that that wasn't real, that that's not how everybody goes, and that those kids opening those toys, that it's really more of a job. And that made things better. All right, that's it for today. We got definitely turn it up on this front. Need to do a lot better. Swimming season is here almost. Gotta be able to launch those kids. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good day, and just hope we're all able to count our blessings and appreciate what's going on around us. Again, at the beginning, we was talking about that big earthquake in Thailand, and just how thankful I am when I see those things and try to hold on to that feeling of being thankful and blessed. I hope you can do the same. God bless you. Thank you.